Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. A reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 8, Text 22. Kalena soja purushayushabi. Pavritta yogena viruta buddha. Sayam taram taridaye vigatam. Pasyata pasyata yana puram. Kalina soya ja purushayushabi. Pavritta yogena viruta buddha. Sayam taram taridaye bhavatam. Pasyata pasyata yana puram. Kalina soja purushayushabi. Pavritta yogena viruta buddha. Sayam taram taridaye bhavatam. Pasyata pasyata yana puram. Kalena, in due course of time, sa, he, aja, the self-born Brahma, Purusha Ayusha, by the duration of his age, Abhimarita, being engaged, Yogena, in meditation, Garuda, developed, Bodha, intelligence, Swayam, automatically, Tat Anta Hridaye, in the heart, Arabhatam, manifested, Upasyata, so, Upasyata, did see, Yat, which, na, not, Purvam, before. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki. Translation. At the end of Brahma's 100 years, when his meditation was complete, he developed the required knowledge, and as a result, he could see in his heart the Supreme within himself, whom he could not see before with the greatest endeavor. Oh, Supreme Lord can be experienced only through the process of devotional service and not by one's personal endeavor in mental speculation. The age of Brahma is calculated in terms of divya years, which are distinct from the solar years of human beings. The divya years are calculated in Bhagavad Gita, Hasri Yuga Paramtam Aha Yat Brahmano Vidu. Brahma's one day is equal to 1,000 times the aggregate of 4 years, calculated to be 4,300,000 years. On that basis, Brahma meditated for 100 years before he could understand the supreme cause of all causes. And then he wrote the Brahma Samhita, which is approved and recognized by Lord Chaitanya, and in which he sings, Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. One has to wait for the mercy of the Lord before one can either render service unto him or know him as he is. Om Agyantimarandasya Jananjana Salakaya Chakshurunitamina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Yes, we're very fortunate that we have some amazing insights into this whole process of creation and of this material universe. And we read how this world, this material cosmic manifestation, it comes into existence for a certain time, and then it's annihilated in due course of time, and then it's recreated again, and it's annihilated, and so these annihilations and creations are coming and going. And there's different types of annihilations. I mean, after Brahma's day, which is mentioned here, 4,320,000,000 years, there's a partial annihilation of the lower and middle planetary systems. And then after Brahma's life, 100 years, which is something, I think 311,040,000,000,000 years, there's a total annihilation of the whole cosmos. And Brahma, that's when Brahma dies. Brahma goes back to Godhead, and all the exalted living entities living in the upper planetary systems return back to Godhead. But all those living entities living in the material universe, they enter into the body of the Lord. And they remain there in suspended animation for Brahma's night. And then at the time of creation, we hear that. Then there's like the annihilation is a description of the annihilation in the Bhagavatam. There was like 100 years of drought, and the sun increases in heat and just scorches the whole planetary systems. And then there's 100 years of fire that comes from the mouth of Shankar. And everything's just burnt to ashes, to cinders. Then there's like 100 years of this rain. It is mentioned in the Bhagavatam. There's like raindrops as big as the pillars of elephants. It goes for like 100 years, and the whole three worlds just get submerged in water. So what happens is all the ingredients for material creation, they become dismantled, and they remain in a state of suspended animation there. It's described, I think, in one little cloud in one corner of the spiritual world. And so all living entities, according to their karma, they're all remaining there too, in like a deep sleep. And then, at the time of, and then the Lord, he lies down in this causal ocean, Mahavishnu, for like a 311,040,000,000,000 years. And due to the desire of so it's the Lord, it seems like the Lord's creating this material, setting this whole material creation back in motion. But it's mentioned that it's the desire of the living entity, of us conditioned souls who desire to want to live in this independently of the Supreme Lord, that we, in a sense, because of this desire, we create the material universe. And due to this desire, it is said that the subtle form of creation pierced through the abdomen of Mahavishnu and took the shape of the bud of a lotus flower and gradually grew. And then the Lord, as a super soul, the Shirodakshai Vishnu, he entered into this lotus flower and impregnated it with the modes of material nature. And then on top of that lotus flower, Lord Brahma was born. This is why it's said here that he is self-born. which means he doesn't have a father, he doesn't have a mother. He was born from the body of the Lord. And when he was born, he was looking around, where am I? Where, what's happening? And he tried to look around, and he was looking in all four directions, trying to figure out where he was. And then he achieved 4 heads. It's mentioned that he's got the 4 heads. And he was meditating on the Lord for 100 years. The Brahma's life, but it's like 311 trillion, 40 billion years. 100 years of Brahma's time. And then, the Lord, he appeared before him, and he was able to understand the Lord, and so many different. Krishna imparted complete knowledge within the heart of Brahma. Our whole disciplic succession is the Brahma Gaudiya Madhava Sampradaya. It's coming down from Krishna to Brahma and down through the whole chain of disciplic succession to us today. So Krishna appears, we know he appears whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice, a predominant rise of religion, and at that time he descends himself. This is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. And he appears in his original transcendental form every 4,320,000,000 years. And he also appears at other times, many expansions, incarnations, whenever humanity loses direction, forgets about the ultimate purpose of life, becomes godless, the Supreme Lord appears out of his own free will. You could say, to get us back on the right track. To understand, what's the purpose of this material creation? What's the purpose behind this human form of life? Just like it is said, that it's like a piece of paper. A piece of paper has no real value. You just pick up a piece of paper. What value does it have? But when the government assigns certain value to paper in the form of paper money, it has value and it's useful. So similarly, without understanding the purpose behind this material creation and the purpose to the human form of life, our life may have little value and very little meaning. And we see that. It's as devotees, we look out at the world today, and it's just billions of people. It's like a complete massive stupidity where people are just completely lost. They don't know, haven't got a clue what is the purpose of this material creation. They think the purpose of this material creation is simply to enjoy this body. Eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die. They have no understanding of what is the purpose of this human form of life, which is self-realization, to prepare ourselves for the next life. So the Lord knows, without this transcendental knowledge, we cannot possibly get free from this material entanglement and achieve life's precious goal. Therefore, he gives us the Vedic literature. He sends his representatives like Lord Brahma and the different Vaishnavacharyas coming out of disciplic succession, so we can get some understanding about what's going on. It's amazing. If you try and understand, trying to understand who is God. I mean, many of you probably had that experience. As you're growing up, you may have wondered. I don't. For me myself, I remember when I was 3 years old, my cousin took me to the school, to Sunday school. And after about 10 minutes, I snuck out and walked home. My mother was looking up the road, and she was seeing this little boy walking down the street. She was thinking, "It's my son. He didn't stay." But as you grow up, people tell you. I mean, people, down the local fellowship, I used to go sometimes with my friends, and they were telling us Jesus is God. And other people were saying, because back in the 70s, there were so many gurus coming from India saying that they're God. Or there's, and the trend in those days was to think we're all gods. It's a democratic idea that, we can all be God together. I'm God, you're God. We're all supreme enjoyers. But so many people will tell you there's no such thing as God. You know, or the atheists. Actually, they say there's no such thing as an atheist because you cannot really come up with an argument to prove that God doesn't exist. So basically, even atheists are basically they're called what's that word? Huh? Yeah. I'm not sure. Maybe he is, maybe he's not. Actually, in Melbourne once, when Prabhupada was there giving a class, at the end of the class, one man, he put his hand up and he said, Sai Baba, he's also God. And everyone thought, wow, how can he say that in class? And they were thinking, what's Prabhupada going to do? Is he going to really smash this guy? Or what's he going to do? It's just like it was so quiet. You'd hear a pin drop. And apparently, Prabhupada just sat back on his asana and he just looked up at the deities, Radha Madhava. Is it Radha Ballabha? Radha Ballabha, isn't it? In Melbourne. He said, Krishna is so beautiful. He said, you can take Sai Baba, we'll take Krishna. Then he looked up again and he said, yes, he said, Krishna is so beautiful. We'll take Krishna, you can take Sai Baba. And also people are thinking that such and such a demigod is God, Supreme Lord. I mean, sometimes you go to the Indian people's house, you'll see there's pictures of all the demigods on the altar. There's so many pictures. They've got pictures of everyone. In one altar, I even saw a picture of Einstein on the altar. It's like, I don't know whether they thought he was God. But, yes, they think there's so many gods, not just one God. And some people believe, that God is this old man. He lives up in there in the clouds, and because if you look at, think about geological microseconds, this creation's been around for a long, long time. Therefore, God, if he created everything, he must be really old. And therefore, they depict him sitting up there in the clouds with his big, long, grey beard. With this little book, writes down all the bad things you do, Now, some people think everything is God. This whole creation is God. The trees, the mountains, the birds, people. It's just God. This is God. A lot of people think that, And of course, we know this is God's energy. It's not different to God in one sense. But we also learn that God is simultaneously one and different. Everything is an expansion of his different diffusion of his different energies, but he has an eternal spiritual form beyond this creation. Some people think God is just this bright white light. They call it Brahman. That everything in creation is resting in this Brahman. And this Brahman is God. Because we know this is said to be the effulgence of the Supreme Lord, and it's a form of the Lord, but it's not his personal form. He has a form beyond this. Some people believe that God is just some remote functionary that appeared sometime in history. He created everything, and then he just disappeared, never to be seen again. Who knows who he was or what he looked like? But some people believe that God is just some mythological deity. Just some mythological deity created by the human mind, by weak people who need to worship some superior being because it makes them feel better, feels them. So, Krishna declares this in the Bhagavad Gita that out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection. Out of those who have achieved perfection, he said, hardly even one knows me in truth. So this means that even big scholars, big yogis, philosophers, religionists, they're bewildered. Even demigods, certain demigods, they cannot genuinely understand who God is. And it's or how they're eternally connected to the Supreme Lord. Or what it means to be truly devoted to loving the Supreme Lord. Or really what it means to surrender to the Supreme Lord. Even people that have some belief in God, they just see God as their order supplier, the one who fulfills all their material desires and free them from the reactions of their sinful activities. And we see people, they make deals with God. They're trying to bargain with God. If I just worship you every day, you make my business a success. If I do this, if I do that, if I give a donation down at the temple, will you cure my disease? In this way, they're trying to make deals. They see God as their order supplier. So the reality is, as we can see in this verse, we cannot possibly just see the Supreme Lord with our material eyes. Some people say that, You say Krishna is God, where is he? Let me see him. But you can't see him or understand him as he is. Even by, as mentioned in this verse, mental speculation, mundane scholarship, material intelligence. Therefore, the Bhakti scriptures advise us to hear from self-realized persons like Srila Prabhupada and other great acharyas and servants of Srila Prabhupada and devotees who know the Supreme Lord perfectly. They can teach us the process. They can teach us the process by which we can purify our consciousness and become very dear to the Supreme Lord. And then the Supreme Lord, he'll reveal himself to you. Yes. There's a saying, don't try and see God, but act in such a way that he'll see you. So, in order to see him, we need to understand him and see him, and we need his mercy. But also, we need to make some endeavor to receive that mercy. We have to show our sincerity by sacrificing our time, our energy, our resources in his service. So we see in the Vedic literature, which has been passed down through the ages to the present day by this bona fide chain of spiritual masters, we find incredible, detailed descriptions of the Supreme Lord's personal form. His features, his pastimes, his qualities, his personality, everything about him, incredible detail. His eternal abode, his eternal associates. This is just amazing. We always think that, I always think that when we're singing the Mangalati prayers, Yashak Prasharam Bhagavat Prasharam. Without the mercy of the spiritual master, one cannot know Krishna. And when we say that prayer, I always think of Prabhupada on that steamship, coming across the ocean to start the Hare Krishna movement. And I think, wow, if Prabhupada hadn't have come, there'd be no Hare Krishna movement. There'd be no devotees. And very, very few, no one would actually ever know who is God. Or any of this knowledge. So we've been incredibly blessed. It is said the mercy of Krishna follows the mercy of the pure devotees. And yes, so the Vedas inform us that, that the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Being, has a purely spiritual body, transcendental, extremely beautiful form, and his name is Krishna. Now, some people, one Maharaj was giving a class in Mayapur, he was saying how is it that Prabhupada came to America and he told all these people, the hippies, and all the people that were gathering around him in the early days, he told them that Krishna is this little blue boy that wears the peacock feather, that plays the flute. He's God. And they just accepted it. So how did they accept? And he was saying, how was it that people just accepted it? And because, without even reading these scriptures and getting detailed information and authorization from previous acharyas or anything, just by Prabhupada saying it, they believed it. And how was that? And then he answered, he said, because beyond any shadow of a doubt, Prabhupada was so completely convinced. He was Krishna's pure devotee. He was so much in contact with, in love and contact with Krishna, connected to Krishna, that when he said something, it just entered into their hearts, and they just accepted it. And of course, we see these Vedic literatures, they give in Prabhupada's purports, and he gives a whole incredible detailed description and authorization from previous acharyas and scriptures to substantiate this understanding that, yes, Krishna is the Supreme Lord. And he is that personal, loving, and lovable aspect of the Supreme Lord. And he is just offering his love to each and every one of us so intimately and so completely that, that each and every one of us will feel that we are his most beloved. It's very amazing. I mean, the name Krishna actually means the all-attractive one. Krishna has the potency to attract the mind, to attract the heart, to attract the senses of every conscious living being. And this name Krishna, it's the original, supreme, most powerful name of God, and expresses the sum total of his infinite qualities and characteristics. Now it is said in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that every feature of Krishna's transcendental form is likened to a tidal wave of luscious splendor that just inundates the senses of his loving devotees and just drenches their hearts with unlimited satisfaction. So it is said, Krishna's beautifully decorated body creates a daily festival for the eyes. Everything about Krishna is just simply wonderful and adorable. And this is the form that Lord Brahma was seeing, which inspired him to write this beautiful prayers, the Brahma Samhita. So we hear that, in the spiritual world, Krishna has his own planet called Goloka Vrindavan, where we find this continuous festival of joy going on, where Krishna eternally resides in his eternal pre-youth form of a 7 to 10-year-old cowherd boy. I mean, who would have thought? Who would have thought that God is this beautiful 7 to 10-year-old cowherd boy in Vrindavan? Who would have thought? His complexion is the color of a sapphire or a blue lotus flame. He wears golden silken garments, beautiful garlands of forest flowers, beautiful crown and jewelry, long dark curling hair. and he plays these exquisite melodies on his flute, which captivate the hearts of one and all. Yes, it is said, actually, Krishna's body is just an ocean of nectarine handsomeness. And his face said shines like the moon. His gentle smile is just so sweet. That when anyone who captures one of his glances, they become just inundated with this transcendental love and reciprocation. And of course, another name of Krishna is Bhagavan, means the source of all excellences. And the Vedas, they list these excellences. Krishna has unlimited beauty, unlimited strength, unlimited knowledge, wealth, fame, renunciation, or independence. Krishna can just do anything he likes. He has incredible strength. Just by his desire, he's systematically conducting all the affairs of both spiritual and material worlds without a flaw, simply by his all-pervasive energies. Unlimited, he's the source of all knowledge. Actually, everything we want to learn in life, whatever it is, science, music, medicine, philosophy, town planning, military strategies, architecture. There's so many different types of knowledge we're trying to learn. And everything we've forgotten, it all has its origin in the Vedic scriptures, which comes from Krishna. Different branches of knowledge have been broken down in time. But no one actually can claim independent knowledge than from the Vedas, which is coming from Krishna. And Krishna, he has unlimited fame, wealth. Everything belongs to Krishna. Can you imagine that? Who can be more wealthy than that? Everything in existence actually belongs to him. And of course, unlimited fame. Some people may say, well, Krishna's not that famous because, there's famous movie stars, there's famous cricketers in this world, that maybe they're more famous than Krishna. Not everyone knows about Krishna. But this material Earth planet is just one tiny little planet within one tiny little universe. If you look at the higher planetary systems and what to say of the spiritual world with trillions of universes, they're all worshipping Krishna. Krishna's fame is sung in the higher planets and the spiritual universes. So these Vedic literatures, they make the Supreme Lord accessible to us by telling us everything about him. And ultimately, he revealed himself to us according to our aspirations. In reality, what we're actually hankering for deep in our hearts, and what everyone in the world and in creation is hankering for in their hearts, is the perfect loving relationship. Yes. Which means they're hankering for Krishna. Because only Krishna can accommodate everyone's loving endeavors perfectly. And he'll always reciprocate perfectly our love. What little endeavor we make to serve him, he reciprocates. And it's said that only then that our loving propensity be really naturally, fully satisfied. Love is something we understand because we share it with one another. And this will help us in a way to understand our personal relationship with Krishna. And it is said that factually we were made in his image, so we can perfectly, completely fall in love with him. Because another name of Krishna is Atmaram. He's always completely satisfied. He doesn't need anyone or anything for his happiness, for his satisfaction, for his service. He doesn't need anything. But still, we learn in our bhakti scriptures that he longs for our love and devotion. And the more we serve him sincerely, the more he appreciates our service. And he blesses us. He rewards us with spiritual realization. We become more happy. We become more satisfied. The more we, you could say, step out of our comfort zones and really make an effort to really try and please Krishna by sacrificing our energy, by sacrificing our resources, our time in his service, the more he becomes pleased with us, the more spiritual advancement we make, the more he becomes happy. We become happy and satisfied within ourselves. For many years, I was just a cook. I was a cook in the temples. I was the head cook in many temples around Australia, actually. Because, but sometimes, when I used to see the book distributors coming in, and how blissful they looked, I was thinking, these guys are really pleasing Krishna, going that step, really performing the austerity of going out there trying to spread Krishna consciousness, and Krishna's reciprocating with them. These guys are just always just so blissed out. I was always hankering for that, what they had. So in our bhakti school, we learn that to truly love the Supreme Lord, it's just not something to be imagined. It's not just some mere fantasy or some sentimentality. It's a great science. It's a great art. It's a devotional work of sacrificing our energy, our time, our resources in his service. This is how we show our sincerity. So yes, it's not just something to be imagined, or some fantasy or some sentimentality. And therefore, this great art and science is something that we need to learn. Just like everything in the world, if you want to become a builder or a doctor or this, you need some training. So similarly, we need some guidance, some education, some training, some inspiration, to follow the path seriously. And therefore, Krishna advises to submissively approach a bona fide spiritual master, who's specifically empowered by Krishna to bless us with genuine spiritual understanding and guidance. So the Vedic scriptures, they declare that, that such a genuine guru is very, very rare. He's a great soul, and only those who are very fortunate can find such a guru and realize the truth. And there's a verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that us living entities, we're wandering throughout the universe. Sometimes we take birth in the higher planetary systems, sometimes in the lower planetary systems, but somehow or other, after thousands of lifetimes of taking birth in this and dying and taking birth again in this reincarnation cycle within this material universe, one is considered extremely fortunate if by the mercy of Krishna one comes in contact with a bona fide spiritual master and gets this seed of bhakti, the bhakti lata kripa planted in his heart, in their hearts, which is the knowledge and the process by which we can develop our love and understanding of Krishna. And we see, some people say, what is a bona fide spiritual master? And these Vedic literatures, they declare that a bona fide spiritual master is one who is always canvassing on the Supreme Lord for everyone to become devoted to the Supreme Lord, for everyone to try and understand and learn to love the Supreme Lord. A bona fide guru is not someone who will say he's God or you can become God, or that, he'll touch you on the head and you'll become self-realized. No, he's always canvassing. He presents himself as a humble servant of God, and he's teaching others how to learn to love and serve the Supreme Lord. So it is said, only by the mercy of Krishna that one gets a bona fide spiritual master, and it's by the mercy of the spiritual master that one can re-establish one's eternal loving relationship with the Supreme Lord and return to the spiritual world at the end of one's life. Yes. So we see that, this amazing culture, this Vaishnava culture. We see that even India itself has been regarded by its people as a sacred land. Historically known for its spiritual teachings and culture, great traditions of yoga and Vedanta, its health traditions of Ayurveda and art forms and music and dance and drama, as well as amazing stories about Lord Ram, Achandra, Lord Krishna, Vedic histories, which inspire people today with visions of ancient, perfect civilizations of people back in previous ages. Civilizations of people who are devoted to righteousness, living the pure, spiritual, and godly life, dedicated to loving and serving the Supreme Lord with great sincerity and devotion. Civilizations of people who are completely happy and satisfied, both spiritually and materially. And we read about this in the Bhagavatam. Once in one class, Prabhupada said, actually here in the West, I'm creating a whole new civilization here that people haven't even dreamed of. A happy life, free from all anxieties, and great hope of actually going back to God at the end of this life. So we're very grateful and very fortunate, and we're very proud of being a part of Prabhupada's new civilization here in the West. It's a whole new way of life that Prabhupada has started. And we see it's amazing. By the mercy of Prabhupada and his dedicated followers, so many people in India and also worldwide are sincerely taking up this bhakti yoga teachings. They're taking to this Krishna consciousness. Now we find so many people around the world, chanting mantras, practicing vegetarianism, meditating, studying the Vedas, honoring deities, accepting bona fide gurus, visiting temples, staying in ashrams, attending festivals, Rath Yatra festivals, utilizing their abilities and talents in Krishna's service. It's amazing. It's like a whole spiritual revolution is taking place here in the world today. And actually millions of people are taking up this Krishna consciousness. And it's predicted, actually even in one famous astrologer in India predicted that in 50 years' time from now, this Krishna consciousness movement, he said that just tens of thousands of people are going to start joining this Hare Krishna movement. It's going to really grow. Even just in 50 years' time, it's going to really expand. And Prabhupada, for certain, he could see that. He predicted that. He actually told the leaders, the managers, that one day thousands and thousands of people are just going to be lining up to join our temples. And you're going to have to accommodate them, facilitate them, educate them, engage them in service. Even we see that in some parts of Europe, in Russia and places like that. There's like hundreds of people just lining up. There's not enough room in the temples. Yes, it's amazing. I'll just get it finished there. But Does anyone have any questions they'd like to ask? Okay. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki. Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Oh.